All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about AI. A lot of people are, I think, scared of AI, and it's nothing to be scared of. So, you're terrified of it? So, just a little bit about me. I'm Thomas Knight. I'm the Department Chair of Business Technologies and Assistant Professor of Information Technology at Rockingham Community College. If you guys have any questions after the presentation is over, if I don't answer something that you want to know a little bit more about, feel free to reach out. My email is up there. I've got some cards that I can give you as well. And the QR code here goes to my LinkedIn, so feel free to connect there. So I want to talk first just a little bit about what generative AI is. So there's a lot of different pieces of AI. Most of what you will be using is generative AI. So it is a type of artificial intelligence. There are different types of artificial intelligence. But generative AI is what you will be interacting with through Google, through Microsoft, those types of things. And we'll talk about those in a minute. It learns patterns from everything that you put into it. So it is only as smart as the information that's out there on the internet and the stuff that you put into it. It creates new information based off what it knows that you have put in and others have put in. And it creates, I wanted to talk about what a large language model is. You might have heard of that term before, LMMs for short, you'll hear that used. But that large language model is what it is creating. The more information that gets put in there, that is what you are creating, or we are creating together, really, because every time that any of you use AI, you are helping create the next version of what other users might get eventually. So, some common platforms. First of all, how many of you, just raise your hand on how many of you feel very confident with your ability to use AI? All right. So, how many of you are sort of on the borderline? You know about it, you feel comfortable with it, but not quite maybe a power user yet. And how many of y'all are just terrified of it?
We're at 1984.
Okay. All right. So that's a good mix. There are two major ones that I'm going to focus on today, and that's Copilot from Microsoft and Gemini from Google. So how many of y'all have a Microsoft account that you use, particularly for your business? It's probably going to be about 50-50. And how many of y'all are using Google? Yeah, about 50-50. So those are the two that I'll focus on the most. OpenAI's ChatGPT, which is how many of you probably got your start with using AI, because that was really hot a while back. And it still is out there, of course, but with Google implementing Gemini in all of its products and Microsoft implementing Copilot, that's what a lot of people are using now. Anthropic has Claude out there, which is also heavily used. But like I said, Microsoft, Google, those are the key ones right now that I'll focus on. Most of you have an account through your work, or if you don't have an account through your work, you have a personal account. There are paid versions of these. Microsoft and Google both have paid versions that give you more access to things, but everybody has a free version of it as well. So definitely play along with that. The free versions are very good. But you can do even more things with the paid version. It just depends on what your level of use needs to be for it. And how you access these can vary. So with Copilot, I'll show you in a little bit about Copilot. That's the one I'll use to demonstrate with today. Gemini, though, is very, very similar. So with Copilot, you just go to Copilot. If you use the Microsoft Suite, I'll show you how to get to that. Gemini is embedded into the Google Suite as well. You can also go to Gemini.com. It takes you right through it. ChatGPT is the same way. Most of these require a user account to access, but ChatGPT will actually has a very, very limited free version that you don't have to have an account to access, but it's not, the outputs are not that great without it. You really need an account. All right, so I'm talking about two different things. I want to spend a lot of time on marketing, just because I think that will be something that will help you all the most probably. But then we'll talk about some other uses for AI. So one of the things that you can use it for is social media posts. So I know we were talking about Canva earlier, and it's a great tool to use. You can also use for the text version of that. So, you created your flyer in Canva, you created your graphic in Canva. You want to put it out there on social media, but you don't have a clue of what to say. Or maybe you know what to say, and you're thinking, this just doesn't quite say what I want it to say, or it just doesn't quite make sense, or it doesn't sound maybe as flowery as you want it to sound. Put that in ChatGPT, put it in Copilot, and ask it to make it sound better. I do it all the time, and it's really helpful. And I think that's a good way to use it. I'm sort of one of these people. I love AI. Think it's a great thing to use as a tool, but I don't think it's good to just rely on it to write or do everything for you. So use it as a tool. I use it all the time to reword things, and that's okay. Sometimes you might even be writing an email, and you're thinking, man, this is what I want to say, this is what I need to say, but it sounds terrible. It sounds really harsh. It sounds like, maybe you want to deliver some bad news to somebody, and you're thinking, man, they're going to, run if you say it that way. To say, hey, I want to make this sound nicer. What's a way I can do that? And AI can help you do that. It can also help you fine tune things for different platforms. So, what you say on Facebook might be different than what you say on Instagram. So use that to your benefit. You can tell AI, hey, this is what I want to use. Create a post for me for Facebook, Instagram, and maybe even give me some ideas for, Snapchat or some other platform. So LinkedIn maybe, and you can tailor it for those different audiences. Because let's face it, what you put out on Instagram is reaching a different audience than what you're putting out on LinkedIn, say. So it's okay to change that up. It can create social media images for you. If there's an image that you have and you want to edit, you can tell it to edit it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll show you guys some examples. Also for logos. Now, the logo that I have up here is our Business Technologies Club logo at RCC. And I have some very gifted students that worked on this. And full disclosure, this is an AI-generated logo partially. They added some things to it by hand, but the general idea of this logo is AI-generated. And they were able to say, like our RCC, our official RCC logo is on here. We have to be sure that we maintain that and use the right colors and all those types of things. So we told Copilot, we want to use the RCC logo. So we uploaded the RCC logo. We want you to use these colors. These are the colors that we need for you to stick to. So it can't use some other kind of color of green. We have a very specific color of green. We have a very specific color of orange that we need everybody to use. So we told it that. And then we said, create it. We also told it the different programs that we have in the department, and it created this logo based off of that. And it's a pretty good logo. We added a few things to it after that. But, you could have taken what it gave us and used it for your business. And we'll talk more about that in a minute too. You can also use it for creating websites and code. If you're not a gifted coder, that's perfectly okay now, because you can tell Copilot or Gemini, hey, this is what I need to do on this website. Can you write some code to make it happen? And it will give you a list of code. You can stick it in that website. You're good to go. Or maybe you don't know how to edit a website. I've talked with business owners before that they're handed a website and they don't know what to do with it. Ask AI. It can tell you. Say, hey, I want to add a scrolling header across the top of this website to promote an event that I've got coming up, and I don't know how to do it. Tell the AI that. If you are using a particular platform, maybe you're using, Weebly or Square or one of those platforms to use it or something else, give it that information. The more information you give it, the better you'll be off. And then let it create it. It will give you the code that you need to put in. It will tell you the steps you need to use to get there to do it. And you'll have a website that looks like you knew exactly what you were doing. You'll have no questions about it. Customer insights and targeting too. If you don't know who your target customer is, ask AI. It's a very good tool to help. If you want to know, exactly what type of customer that you're trying to target, if you're not sure what kind of customer you're trying to target. If you know already, say, this is who I'm trying to target. What are the best ways to do that? It will give you a list. If you do know your customer or don't know your customer, just ask it. This is what kind of business that I have. This is what I'm trying to do. What are some effective ways to market this? What are some effective people to target? What age group should I be targeting? And it will give you some ideas. Search engine optimization. If your website isn't showing up in search results, ask AI, give it your website. It can actually scan your website and it will tell you what you can do to make it be more effective in search engine results. So that's pretty cool as well. And then marketing campaigns. If you don't know, if you just completely have no ideas on how to market and you're really confused on how to market, maybe you just really don't know which platform is right for you. I mean, it's, most people in Rockingham County are on Facebook, so I think that's a good, safe choice that you need to be on. But, if you're marketing to a younger demographic, you probably should be on TikTok, right? So maybe you don't have a clue of how to create something for TikTok or even where to start. Ask AI, it will tell you. You tell it what you're trying to do, it will give you some ideas. It can tell you what's trending right now. So if you're trying to figure out exactly what kind of short videos that you might need to create, it will tell you. All right. So some other uses that might be away from the marketing side, summarizing large amounts of information. If you get some kind of report and it's 50 pages long and you've got 15 minutes and you really don't have time to read through the whole thing, put it in a Gemini, put it in Copilot, say I need a 1-paragraph summary of what this document says, and it will give it to you almost immediately. Very useful for that. It can also give you some highlights, some points, or if you've got a document that you maybe need to do a presentation on, give Copilot that document, upload it, say I need to do a 15-minute presentation on it. It will create a PowerPoint presentation for you based off of the top points out of that document. Now, you might need to edit it, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it still gives you a place to start, so it's a good place to be. There again, rewording documents and text. I use it, probably what I use it for most of the time is rewording things. Because I like for it to sound better than I might just say it naturally. So I would ask it to reword stuff for me. Completing repetitive tasks. Now, I'm not going to get into that today as much, but if you've got something that you do on a regular basis, so if you maybe have an Excel spreadsheet, say, and you do the same thing to it all the time, you can create an agent in Copilot or Gemini that will literally let you do the same thing over and over with it every day. So you can stick it in there. If you want to move columns, if you want it to create a chart for you, whatever you need for it to do. If you need it to remove columns, create a PDF, you can create that, tell it what you need for it to say, and it will give you that output every single day or every time you need to do it. You can also have some of that automated too, so it happens automatically if it's something that happens on a regular basis. And then same thing for customer support. Maybe you don't know how to serve a customer the best. Ask AI to help you. It's a very useful tool for that. Now, some of the pitfalls, and this is where I hear a lot from the folks that I talk with about just concerns about AI, is it can be scary, right? You don't know what all it can do. Sometimes you hear of it giving a lot of false information and those types of things. And that is all true, but that's why you have to be careful with it. But use it appropriately, use it effectively, and you'll be just fine. So one pitfall of that is it can hallucinate. So you remember that I said we are all creating these models together. It can make up stuff. So I can feed a whole bunch of information in there and that is completely a lie. And it's part of the model now. So if you ask it to create a marketing plan for your business that is, I'll pick on Chris for a minute, investment firm, he's with Edward Jones. Asked it to create some stuff. It might make up some stuff that companies that never even existed, you know, because somebody put that in there and it thinks it's real. So you've got to do your own research and be sure. But there again, if you're using it as a tool to help you create your information, then that's perfectly fine. There was actually an article in the New York Times, I believe it was yesterday, about a prominent law firm in New York that the attorneys there had used AI to create a brief for a case. Turned out that some of the cases that they referenced in that brief never happened. They never existed. And of course, the judge wasn't too happy about that, right? So that's the type of thing you've got to be careful for, because it can happen. I have students that, most of my students use it very effectively, but I have some people that will just let them write a paper for them, that type of thing. You can always tell it when it's telling you about something that never happened. So always pay attention to that and be sure that it's in there. Be sure that your information, not just that it's real, but that it's accurate too, because sometimes, even if it's real information, maybe what it's telling might not be exactly accurate, or it might be pulling for some old information. I've had a situation personally where it told me to use a site that did not exist anymore. They went out of business. So, that type of thing. It's not necessarily false information, but it's just not quite accurate anymore. And then another thing that we'll talk about is security, because, some of you, depending on what you're using it for, may be in a area that it really doesn't matter whether what you disclose to it. But, if depending on what you're putting in there, so, Chris, for example, cannot just put client information in ChatGPT or Copilot because that is confidential. My healthcare folks that are in the room, you have HIPAA laws, education folks have FERPA to worry about. You can't just put just anything you want to in there because it is public knowledge when you get in there. Even if you use an image that you have, it's public information once you put it in ChatGPT, once you put it in Copilot, once you put it in Gemini, because everybody now on the web has access to that information. So you want to be very careful about that. Now, there is something that you can sort of take away from that, though. Depending on your organization, if you have an enterprise level account, so if you have paid basically for your business to have a Microsoft account, or if you pay to have a Google account, you have a premium version of Gemini, you have a premium version of Copilot. The excerpt that I have out here is actually a screenshot from Copilot. You'll have this little green check mark in the top right corner of your screen. If you hover over it, that little drop down will pop up that says Enterprise Data Protection applies to this chat. So if that happens for you, that means your information is safe. It's just within. If I put student information in, for example, at RCC, and I'm using my RCC account, it stays within our RCC bubble. So it's safe. It's safe for me to put it in there. It's not released to the public in any way. And same thing for you guys. For a lot of healthcare, if you're putting information in there, pay attention to your company policies, because some companies have their own policies about what you can and cannot use AI for. So that's important to remember too. But as a general rule, if you see that up there, Gemini looks the same way. It has a little green shield up at the top. You should be safe for putting personal or confidential information in there. It won't be shared outside of your organization. And that's really good to know and remember and be sure that you do. Because the last thing you want is to be putting social security numbers in there or something like that. And next thing you know, they're out. You're the reason for the data leak because they're out there on the web. That's not good. So be mindful of that. Probably, I don't know that I would put social security numbers in any form of AI in general, but if you did for some reason and you've got that enterprise version, it still won't go out into the public. It will be part of your organization's information. It won't be out there in the web. That's very important. I just see organizations do that sometimes, and I think, as time goes on, the bad guys will take more advantage of that, because you can write prompts for how to sort of harvest that information out of AI engines that you might be able to get, and there might be able to be a data breach or something because of that. You definitely don't want that to happen for you. Now, if you have, if you're just a small business, you don't have an enterprise version of the account, you have just a basic Gmail account or a basic Microsoft account, you can absolutely still use all of these tools, but definitely don't put private information in there because you aren't protected by that enterprise data protection feature that's out there. So just be careful with that. All right. So any questions before I move on about AI in general, what we've talked about so far?
Did AI write your presentation?
It did not. So I actually did think about that. I thought about having it create a presentation for me and telling you all at the end that it was all AI generated, but I decided not to do that. But it can do that. And I will say, if you ever do need to do that for something, like I said, that's a very real example that I used about if you have a 50-page report that you want to make into a presentation. That's a very real example that could happen. It will give you a good presentation, and just sort of like Canva was, you can go in and edit. It just gives you a regular PowerPoint. You can go in and edit that presentation. If you need to add your logo in there, you can. If you don't like the background that it is, you can change it. A lot of times, Copilot will give you a black background, and it just doesn't look very inviting and exciting. You can certainly go in there and change it. One other thing I'll mention too, talking about most of you probably use the Microsoft Suite in some way, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You have probably already seen AI being added to that. If you use the Microsoft 365 version, which is what Microsoft really wants you to use now, it's the version that always stays updated. It's a great tool. What you'll probably notice, you've seen a little bit of it already, but you'll see it more and more, and I think really a lot more as time goes on, is Copilot is being embedded in all of those products. So you'll already see some helpful hints. PowerPoint, for example, has a slide designer that is a feature that you might already be using that is AI based, that can change your slides and make them look nicer based off the information that you've put in there. And that's not really any AI specific that it's created. But you will start seeing that more and more embedded in the Microsoft Suite. So if you're opening a Word document, you're trying to write a letter to somebody, it will just eventually one of these days just pop up and say, hey, can I help you write this letter? Now it can do that in Copilot right now, but what you'll see is it embedded more into different products. It's very heavily integrated already into Microsoft Outlook. If you use Microsoft Outlook, you probably have seen, or maybe at least some suggestions of things that it wants you to say. Google is doing the same thing. Gmail is doing the same thing. It's not quite asking you to write the whole email yet, but it will give you some suggestions on things that you should say, some suggested responses, those types of things. If you're using Gmail and you have it turned on, you have to have this feature turned on. At the top of Gmail, it will summarize the email for you. So it gives you like 2 or 3 bullet points of what the email says. That's very helpful too. You can actually ask, though, even if your email doesn't say that, you can ask Copilot, if you're in Microsoft, to summarize this email for me, because Copilot has access to your whole email inbox. Some other things Copilot will do, it can create a task list for you for the day based off what's in your email, because Copilot can read your email, it can read your calendar. So if you've got all that stuff in there, you could ask it to create an agenda for you for the day. You can ask it to create a list of tasks that you need to do. You could even ask it to prioritize the emails that you might need to respond to. If you've got 200 emails in your inbox and the ones that might need to be the most important, you can ask it to do that. And you probably have already seen some of that already with your iPhones. If you've got that, you got some Apple Intelligence is popping some of those messages up to your top for text messages. It'll say this is a really important message. It's using AI to figure out what is important to you based off the people that you interact with the most, based off the context of the message. It will figure all of that out based off the information that you give it. All right, so the next part here, I want to get into some prompt engineering. So I have some examples, and then I want to show you a sort of a live example we'll play with a little bit. So everything that I'm using here is from Copilot. So what I asked Copilot to create here was just please create a logo for a small accounting business called Eden Accounting. Very, very simple task. Actually didn't do too bad. That's what I got. So somebody could use that. It's not bad. It pulled the apple. You know, it looks very professional. Not bad. So, but it's not exactly what I was going for. So I asked it a longer prompt. I said, please create a logo for a small accounting business titled Eden Accounting. Use aqua blue as the color scheme. Eden is the land of two rivers, so please include visuals of that. You can also include accounting symbols such as a calculator. So I gave it a lot more information. And that's what I got. So I've got two rivers in there. I even got some hills going on in the background. We've got the calculator. I've got a plus sign on the plus button. They used the blue that I wanted, so it looks a lot better. You can do, and you could have told it to do a lot more with it than I did too. So it gives you some, just some examples. So, all right, now I'll come back to that in a minute. So let me go back over here. So just to show you some examples. So I'm in my RCC Outlook account right now. How you would get, now you can just, Google Copilot and you can get to it that way. But if you're using Microsoft, you go up here to the top, on the top left side of the screen to the app launcher. And it should be one of the first, pretty much across all account types, it should be one of the first things you see there, and it will say Microsoft 365 Copilot. You click on that, and it should open up for you. And it's going to ask you, what can I help you with? So who wants to be my guinea pig today? Anybody?
Sure.
Okay. What would you like for Copilot to create for you? It could be a social media post. It could be a logo. It could be.
Maybe an idea.
It could be an idea.
Okay, an idea for a graduation party for boy and girl twin. One that likes reading. Moving on to the next chapter, idea theme.
Okay. Actually, let me not put all that in there yet. So idea for a graduation party for girl and boy.
Or invitation. Let's do invitation.
Invitation? So an idea for an invitation to a graduation party? Okay.
Graduate from high school.
Graduated from high school. That's good. We'll put that in there. Okay. And a few general notes is you don't have to worry about punctuation. You don't have to worry about capitalization. AI doesn't care. So just type freely. Let's see what Copilot tells us. Okay. So here's idea one. Double the caps, double the celebration. Join us as we celebrate the graduation of her name and his name, class of, date, time, location. Come for the party, stay for the future plans. A design tip is 2 graduation caps side by side, one with subtle feminine accents and one with neutral or bold. So not bad. Number 2, same year, next chapter. Sort of the same information, just a little bit different design. And then we've got a split design here. Basically the same information again, except the invite has been split in half there with the colors, florals on each side, bold geometric school colors on the other. And then we've got a casual and backyard party friendly invitation there, relaxed and cheerful, come and go, food, music, and fun. Photo centered invitation. So that one's going to include their photos. Which one of those do you like better? It's a lot of choices.
I don't like 4 and 5, but I do want their photos included.
Okay.
A little more formal. I do like the next chapter.
Okay. So that's perfect. So we will say, so this is where you want to really start. It's good, and prompt engineering is a whole art, and we can't get into all of that today. But some of these the examples that we're doing are good tips. So it's good to start out with just a general idea. So telling it, hey, this is what I want to do. Don't just go in to say, create an invitation for me, because you're not giving it enough information to know what to do. Tell it, this is what my idea is, and then we're building on it. So I'm saying, I like idea number 2. All right. What else do we want to add on to idea number 2?
Can we add where they're graduating from?
Yes. So please add
Rockingham Early College High School and RCC.
Okay, and I'm going to say in Wentworth and C, because what that's prompting it to do is it's going to reach out to those websites and find their colors. So it's going to know that RCC's colors are green and orange. It's going to know that the early college high schools is purple and silver, I think.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, what else do we want to say?
Do you need the date and time?
We could. Well, we don't. We can just make up something
Well, no, I mean,
for this. Yeah.
I've already printed the invitation.
Oh yeah. So when's the party?
May 16th.
Okay. It will be May 16th. 5 p.m.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Okay. 5 to 8 p.m. All right. We won't expose the location, but we'll just say it's at in Eden.
That's fine.
All right. In Eden and see. Anything else? Anything they need to bring?
On their invitations, I did pull like the logo of where they're going to college.
Okay. So let's add that in. And I'm going to say, can you add, we'll see what it does here. We might have to give it some more prompts to get what we want. Can you add the logos for the early college high school and, no, let's not say that. Let's be specific. The Rockingham Early College High School and Rockingham Community College. And let's go ahead and ask it just for the sake of time. Well, we've got a few more minutes, so let's go ahead and leave it with this. And actually, let's say, and use the school colors.
The purple.
Use purple. Okay, let's see what it does. Okay, and it's going to take a minute to create the image, but it should pop up here in a minute. And you'll start to see it form. You'll start to see it sort of uncover. It sort of gives a reveal of it. The bottom line is, though, the more information that you give AI, the better it can be. And if you don't get what you like the first time, like this is not looking bad so far, but maybe we don't like what it ends up looking like. That's okay. We can, well, got your children's names wrong. You know? But we can continue to have it edit the document and give more information. Okay, so obviously the logos didn't turn out right. They created their own logo. They're not bad logos though, but so, and this is just an example. Okay, so there we go. It's not a bad graphic. We probably want to make some more changes to it to make it exactly what we want it to be. Obviously, we definitely want the real logos for the places in there, but you know, not bad in general. Added casual attire, food, and fun to follow. So anything that we don't like here, obviously, the names are wrong. Well, we didn't give it names in the first place, so that's okay. But we would want to put the real names in there. We would want to grab the logo. So we can go.
And it changed it from same year to new roads instead of new chapters.
It did. So let's see. Hopefully, okay. So let's say, so we want new chapters. So we can say, all right, change the title to same, whoops. All right, same. New chapter, was that what it was? Yeah, next chapter. Next chapter. Okay. We'll ask it to do that.
Have you ever experienced where if you keep asking it to make changes, it continues to starts making more and more mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happens often. So a way to get by that is to actually tell it do not make changes to anything else.
Okay.
That works a lot of times. If it actually it works most of the times, I think. Just say change this, but don't change anything else.
Right.
And that happens also if you ever are asking it to edit an image. Sometimes it will become, well, sometimes it does crazy things to the images. Sometimes it pixelates it, like crazy things happen sometimes with that. And sometimes, if that happens with an image, I always recommend going back and asking it to use the first image that you uploaded.
Okay.
That's a good thing to do sometimes as well. And it will do that, or it should do that.
Oh yeah, and there
Yeah.
are more and more, just like back in the day when I could tell a publisher flyer from anything else, you can now tell a ChatGPT flyer from
Yes.
everything, and it's like, I think this is a useful tool. I say take this and whatever it gives you and as kind of a draft, and then
Yes.
take something like Canva, or if you're Adobe,
Mhm.
if you don't understand InDesign or Illustrator, then create it, because there are mistakes, and like
Oh, yeah.
it decides to use WebDing sometimes in terms of words. It's like,
Yep. And so that's another good point about using it as a starting point. Because what I can do out of this is I can say, so I'm a heavy Adobe user myself, and so what I can do is tell it to give me those files that I need to edit in Adobe. Then I can take it in Adobe and do whatever I want to with it. So it does give me a starting place. And also for these logos, I didn't edit the logos, but what I can also do is download the actual logos from their websites off the internet and just insert those in here. You can add content down here at the bottom. So I can add a file, I can upload images, I can upload different pages from different things that I've created. So that's helpful. You can also talk to it. There's a microphone down here that you can talk to. And something else to keep in mind is all of your chats are saved over on the left side of your screen. So everything that I've ever done is saved over here. So if you want to go back to that at some point and make an edit to it, you can do that. And anytime you want to start with a brand new idea, come up here and create a brand new chat because you don't really want to use the same, like we've trained it right now into flyer creation mode or invitation creation mode. If I'm trying to do something completely different, it's not going to be that effective for me. So you can do that. Also here, and Gemini has the same way. It's set on auto up here at the top. You can change it to be deep thinker. And depending on what you want to do, that can be a helpful tool as well. It takes a lot longer for the post or whatever you're doing to generate, but it does a better job of creating the information, and it doesn't have a tendency to maybe be as incorrect as some of the other things might be. So change it on there. This logo would have changed a lot if we had done that, but that's something to keep in mind. Definitely feel free to use that, and I would encourage you to use that. If you want something quick, go for that. But and generally for most stuff that's okay. But that deep thinker option's a good idea. So, any other questions? If you guys have questions, please do reach out to me. It's hard to cover everything about AI in the time that we have, but please feel free to reach out if you have questions, and I'll be glad to talk with you about it. So, I will say that we have an AI course coming up at RCC in the fall. That we'll have some time to really dig into some of the nitty gritty of that prompt usage and those types of things. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll give you the information. So, well, thank y'all for your time today.